Republicans are once again showing their priorities when it comes to the budget. And big surprise, that priority involves screwing over poor people. Shocker. Now, the latest example here is Representative Dusty Johnson. Okay. Yeah, really? Really? Dusty Johnson?
Tallywhacker.
Oh, yeah. I had to. He introduced legislation to expand work requirements. So these work requirements are, of course, in order to qualify for the SNAP program, the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. So now, Johnson's proposal would basically reduce state discretion over eligibility rules and expand the definition of able-bodied adults without dependents to include people in their 50s and early 60s, in fact, up to 65. Current cutoff is 49. So basically what he's saying is, old people, get back to work. Get back to the mines. How dare you take food stamps? No, you have to work. So now, of course, there's a huge problem with that. There's a lot of discrimination towards older Americans in the workforce. People who are 50 or 60, it's a lot more difficult for them to get a job, to get hired for a job that is decent. Okay? And so oftentimes when they are able to find jobs, they end up having to work for very, low wage employers and having to get on food stamps. Now, ironically, of course, that means that they're working. And so the work requirement for those people wouldn't do anything because they're already having to work. There are already work requirements. This is just an expansion of them, but still, it's ridiculous. And really, I'm going to get to why the cruelty is the point here. Because look, if you are an older person and you lose your job, you can't find a new one as a result of this, age discrimination, which is a very real thing. Well, Republicans are telling you, sad day for you. You can't get food stamps. You're going to have to do, you're going to have to find work. Now, Republicans are saying that this is a necessary change and are even threatening to default on the debt and not raise the debt ceiling, which, of course, they'll never do because that would tank the entire economy. And really, most importantly, and this is why they would care, wipe out their stock portfolios. So, understand that they don't need to threaten the debt ceiling because at the end of the day, they're still going to raise it no matter what. They're not going to put their personal fortunes in jeopardy for anything. Just anything. So let's get that clear. It's all theater. But again, this is theater that is trying to force the Democrats into passing a plan that will not have really any impact on the debt whatsoever. And we'll get to the details on that. And it's just mainly there to be cruel. That's what it's about. So now, if we look at the debt, we look at the deficit, right? Republicans will tell you, oh, it's the biggest danger in the world. We've got to cut spending. We've got to cut spending. Okay, well, do you know how much food stamps cost the budget? Well, federal spending on the USDA's food and nutrition assistance programs in 2021 hit a high of $182.5 billion. Now, the following year, it actually went down to $149 billion, and it's actually scheduled to go down even further in 2023. So now, that first year that I mentioned, 2021, was higher than usual as a result of the pandemic. That's understandable, right? So now you might think, oh my God, $149 billion in 2022. Wow, well, that's a lot of money. Oh my God. No, it's actually not. Because the average monthly STAT benefit per enrollee in 2022, when it cost $149 billion, was about $230 per person. Or about $7 a day. So, no, that's not for meal. That's for the entire day. You have to eat 3 meals on $7. And by the way, that actually includes the emergency pandemic nutrition benefits, which in 32 states is going away. So actually, you take that $230 and you take away about $82 from that, because that's the average. It's like somewhere $82 to $90 for that additional emergency pandemic benefit. And what do you get? You get around $150 per person for an entire month of food. At a time where we have inflation, you have grocery costs that are at least 10% higher. So understand, these people are not living high in the hog. That's not a lot of money to survive on. Now, as for the budget itself, food aid accounts for about 2%. 2% of the budget total. The change that is being introduced by Dustin Johnson,
tallywhacker,
would actually not really have an impact at all. Only about 3% of the 42.6 million people who receive food assistance would be affected by this. And that's because most adults who are under 65 and who get SNP benefits are already working or are temporarily in between jobs. Johnson's legislation also would remove states' ability to request a waiver for the work requirement from the Department of Agriculture if states lack enough available jobs to hire enrollees. But look, as I pointed out here, this is not about the budget. This is about what it's always about, punishing poor people. If Republicans wanted to take on the budget and actually do something substantial, then you would go after the $20 billion plus in oil and gas subsidies. Why are we giving the richest corporations on the planet subsidies? Why are we giving all these corporations billions and billions of dollars in handouts? It's amazing to watch these Republicans who voted during the Trump administration to cut over $2 trillion in taxes, mainly for rich people, complain now about the debt. And then go on to say, well, of course, what we have to do is we have to go after some of the most vulnerable people. That's what we have to do. No, it's not going to do anything about the debt. Yeah, we could rein in military spending as well. That would do something for the debt. But both Republicans and Democrats continuously vote to add even more money to the Pentagon. But they're never worried about that debt. No, not at all. But when it comes to, feeding people, well, then we can't do that. How are we going to pay for that? How are we going to pay for that? They're sociopaths. That's all it is. They're sociopaths. It's the only way to describe them. Taking the meager amount of food assistance away from people who need it for really no discernible impact on the debt or deficit at all, it's just cruelty. It's cruelty for cruelty's sake.